Women Innovators. Interviews with women with big messages and big missions, sharing their stories to inspire you to live your passion and step up to make the world a better place. Here's your host, Tami Patzer.
Hi, this is Tami Patzer, and I'm excited to introduce today's guest, Theriot. She helps women get rid of the noise in their life, resulting in a balanced life of peace and real joy. She also helps businesses develop a culture of well-being through employee education and training. Kate is a board-certified coach, certified spiritual director, and an HR professional with more than 30 years in the industry. She has a master's degree in Christian spirituality and is an associate member of the Congregation of St. Joseph. Kate provides productive and meaningful coaching that allows the client to connect their inner world dreams with the reality of their life, providing a life of balance, peace, and real joy. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here today.
So, Kate, tell me more about who you help.
Well, my typical client is female, but I do have quite a number of males that come to me as well. But these are all individuals who have had life-altering experiences and they want to move forward. It's also someone who might want more out of life. They wake up one morning and decide, there's got to be more to life than this. So what is it? It also could be someone who wants to live a life without compromising their real self. We compromise so much in our lives to fit into society, to our families. And it's people who want to find out, to stop that compromising and to live from their real self. It's also someone who is ready to get rid of the noise in their life. We have a lot of noise in our life today. And it's not just the external noise. I'm talking about the internal noise. And that's the noise that really makes a difference and sends us into a negative stance instead of a positive stance in life. It's also someone who wants a real relationship with their creator. Whatever the name they give to their creator, it's a relationship with that being. Someone who's not afraid of the truth, because the journey is not always easy. So it's got to be someone who has the courage to face the truth. And someone who wants to be who wants to live a productive and meaningful life. It could be a business who wants a productive workforce, or a business who wants a culture of well-being. All of the culture of the business is comprised of all the individuals who work inside that business. So I work with each one of those individuals in a group setting or an individual setting to walk with them on this same journey. And the journey I'm talking about is a similar journey to the one that I took. Back when I turned, I was probably in my early 30s. And I had a life-altering event at that particular time. I lost a child. And it sent me into a place where I started questioning a lot of things. I went back to school, finished my bachelor's degree, got my master's degree, and all of my education was instead of going to therapy, really, because it was my therapy at the time. I learned about myself. I learned about the real self that, for me, God created. And I began living from that real self. And now I want to share this with others along the way.
So why do you think that people would really be interested in working with you? And you talked about your personal journey. Mm-hmm. The people that you're working with, what are some of the things that they're dealing with?
Those life-altering experiences of maybe a divorce or loss of a child or loss of a career or a realization that the career they've chosen for themselves is not what they really wanted to do. They did it because someone told them they had to do it. It could also be something as simple as I have health problem issues and I want to live a healthier life. And we know that many of our health issues are from a stress-related life or a life of living a way outside of the real self where we compromise ourselves. So they will come to me and ask me. And the other thing I think too is that once I build a relationship with people and people start to know who I am, they get a glimpse from maybe a retreat or a workshop or something like that. They tell me that they feel the peace that I have, and that's what they want. And I feel like that's what I'm trying to give back to them as well.
So it's the idea of I want what she's having.
Yes. Yes.
So you work with both individuals and businesses, and of course businesses are made up of people.
Correct.
So it makes a lot of sense. Tell me a little bit about the business side. What might that look like if you were working with individuals in a business or in a business setting?
Well, in order to change the culture, we have to change the organizational dynamics. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll look at their organizational chart, their policies, their procedures, and then we work through those, the changes that are necessary with the leadership team. I work a lot with the leadership team, Patzer, which is typically the CEO, the COO, the CFO. And we work through those issues and talk about how their leadership style promotes or detracts from a culture of positivity. Okay, and so we work from the top down in many ways. And then at the same time, I'll work with the middle managers and we'll go through a whole organizational development process of, like I said, rewriting policies and procedures, looking at organizational charts, lines of communication, job descriptions, and so on and so forth. And then we do when we bring all of that information to fruition, we bring that to the employee group in terms of team building exercises. I do a lot of work with personality and behavior because that really makes, that's one of the basics of understanding who the real self is. So we start with that. We use that in terms of team building exercises. And then we move on to things like stress management, professionalism, communication styles, that kind of stuff, conflict resolution, that kind of stuff. So it really is everything. It's a very similar to the journey that I walk with the individual on one-on-one, but I put it into a group setting and into a setting and a manner that's appropriate for the business setting.
So when you're working with the people, would you say it starts with self-awareness? Can you kind of take
Absolutely.
us through,
Yeah.
through what it looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about self-awareness. And the first thing that we have to look at is, I have this chart on my website. It's the first thing you'll see when you go to the website. It's 3 circles. And the outside circle is a thick green circle. And I call that the ego or the persona. And what it is, it's the shield that we build for ourselves so that we don't let others inside so they can't hurt us, right? So we build the shield. But what happens is we build the shield and we don't let ourselves inside either. And so we have the world that comes at us and it tells us we should be doing this, we should be doing that, we should look like this, we should have this kind of house, we have all kinds of shoulds that come at us, and that shield gets thicker and thicker and thicker until we really lose sight of who we are. So what I do is, the first thing I do is walk with that person in cracking that shield. And sometimes the first level of that is just looking at basic personality and behavior. But the thing that I do different is that when all of us are familiar with some type of personality instrument. And what I do differently is that I walk them through a little meditation prior to taking the instrument so that they strip themselves of all the roles that they play in life. Because if I am in a role of mother, I'm going to make a decision differently, a simple decision as to whether I answer the telephone. I will make that decision differently if I'm in my role as a worker in the workplace, okay? Or my role as wife, or my role as sister, or my role as grandmother, whatever my role is at that particular time, I'm going to make the decision. So I help them to strip all of those roles so that they make the decision based on who they really are. And what's interesting is as I go through this dynamic with them, people invariably will say, that is so hard to strip away the roles because we are so ingrained in who we are by the roles that we play. We forget about who our Creator created. Okay, so that's the purpose of stripping the roles. So then we go through that personality instrument, and at the end, they have a better idea of who they are. And the reason I do it that way is because the first time I took a personality instrument, a behavioral instrument, I was living out of my shadow side. And I looked at that instrument and I read the summary of it and I said, no, that's not me. That's not who I am. And so that was one of the things that helped to start me on that journey, because I just kept saying, that's not me. It's not me. So years later, I took it again, and I was kind of in the middle at that point because I had started investigating and become more aware. And so I was kind of in the middle when I looked at the profile. And then years down the road, I would say this is probably a span of 5 or 6 years, maybe. Years down the road, I took it a third time. And I remember to this day, when I took it that third time and when I read the description, I had this sigh of relief. And I just felt like, I'm home. This feels right. And then I realized that the first time I took it, I was living out of my shadow side. So I had compromised through the years. From about 12 years old to about 35, I had compromised everything about myself so that I was living totally opposite of the real self. And that's not a healthy place to be. And I didn't understand why I was always in conflict. I was always stressed out. I was not a nice person. Okay. And so, but when I came home, when I looked at the profile and said, wow, this is who I am, I felt better about who I was. I felt comfortable. It's like, okay, this is who, for me, God created. And
so when you work with people, then you've actually gone on the journey. So
yes.
you've had the aha moments. How long would you say this process takes for most people? I mean, is it like an aha, or like you said, you actually developed and changed over the years to get to that point? So how does that work?
Well, for me, I didn't have anybody helping me. So I think that's why it took so long for me to go through it. But I kind of can see the triggers with other people. So typically a person will come to me and we'll crack through that first shell in the first 3 months. Okay. And they may take a break. Okay. Because this is my thing, is that this is systemic lifestyle change. This is, once you go through this journey, you will be forever changed. And if you're not forever changed, then I probably haven't done a good job, or you're not interested in really changing. Okay. It's one of those two things. But typically before a person comes to me, I kind of screen them out to see if they're ready to do the work, because this is not a journey for the weak. This is a journey. And sometimes people will come and they will come for 3 months and they will say, you know what, this is too hard. I don't want to know anymore. I know all I want to know. And they back off, and that's it. Okay. And that's fine. So it really is left up to the person. The person has to make the decision on their own And I will ask them questions, and I can tell by the answers that they've given me whether or not they're ready to continue the journey. But typically, if they go through the whole journey, it will take them about a year.
So what do you think are some of the big misconceptions people have about doing this type of work? Which, if you were to describe what the transformation is, how would you summarize what the work is that you're actually doing with people, and then what are their misconceptions about it?
It really, the misconception, the misunderstanding, I think, is that people really don't, they think they're living a real life. They think they're fully conscious, they're making conscious decisions, they're living an awakened life. And in reality, they're not. They're living a life with all these shoulds all around them. And they're living an external life. They're not living the internal life. And they're so far removed from that internal life that they don't, it really is sad because they don't even know that they're not living an internal life. Okay, so that's really the barrier. And that's why I say it takes, most of the time, people will come to me after some type of life-altering event, because it takes that life-altering event to shock the person into saying, wait a minute, there's more to this. There's got to be more to life. Okay, so, really, it's for me to go out and get clients, it's almost a sad thing, because they have to go through some type of life-altering event for them to even realize that they need my services. This one business that I'm working with right now, I mean, we can all understand this from a personal perspective because we know what kind of life-altering events people go through. But from a business perspective, you would say, now, what kind of life-altering events would a business go through? The reality, this one business that I've been working with over a 3-year period now is the owner of the company. They went through a merger, and instead of being a locally owned and operated mom and pop kind of operation that does business in the Americas, okay, North, South America, Central America, now they have a presence in 22 countries because they merged with a larger company. And they have presence all over the world. Well, the owner of the company now is he just hit 60, so he's looking towards retirement. He wants to turn the company over to his son and other members of the organization that have been working for him for some time. And so he had no idea how to go through the transition. So that was his life-altering event. That merger and the reality of retirement is soon. So that was his life-altering event, and he contacted me and said, okay, can you help us go through this transition here? So it's always about some type of life-altering event, whether it's a business or whether it's an individual.
It's interesting when you talk about businesses, because we all know that a corporation, for example, is considered a person or an entity on its own.
Right.
And so sometimes we don't look at how that can be such a life-changing event and the people involved. And like you said, for an individual, it could be, like you said, a loss of a child, a divorce, retirement, changing a job, getting fired. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen to us that make us say, whoa, what's going on here? Do you find that the people, when they do decide to quit, is it because of the pain, that it's too much revealing?
Yes.
Too much?
Yes. It really, this, like I said earlier, this journey is not for the weak-hearted. It takes someone with a lot of courage to go through the journey. And courage meaning that it is painful. It is. But we don't get anything that's worthwhile in life unless we go through some kind of pain. I mean, if we make $1 million, we have to go through the pain that it takes, the work that it takes to get to that place where we make that kind of money, right? So it's the same in this kind of a journey too. We have to go through pain. And I will tell you from my own perspective, the pain was the realization that I was living out of my shadow side. I was not living according to the way God had created me to live. And the understanding that all of the conflict that I had in my life before was by my own choice. I didn't know it at the time, but I began to realize that it was my choice. And as I began to take more responsibility for that, it is a painful situation. Sometimes I didn't want to look at myself, okay? I didn't want to look at myself in the mirror. But what I always try to remember is that God does not make junk, okay? That's an old kind of cliche saying, but the reality is it's true. God does not make junk. And I had to go through that process to be the person that I am today, to be able to minister to others along their own journeys. That without that process, I would not be who I am today. I would not have learned what I learned along the way. And I would not be able to give that to others. One of my, a lot of what I do, I sometimes use Bible or scripture sayings. And one of my favorites is from Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 19. And it's love your neighbor as yourself. In the beginning, in the early years, I was not loving myself. So I couldn't give real love to other people. I was not giving love in the job setting. I was not bringing love into friendships. I was not bringing love into the marriage. I was not giving real love to others. And once I went through the journey, slowly but surely, I learned how to love myself. Now that I can accept with all my warts and strengths, now that I can accept all of that about myself, I can help others. I can give that love to others, but I can also help others learn to love themselves. And it takes a lot of patience. We have to have patience with ourselves. And patience is not one of those virtues that we see a lot of in today's society, but it's one of the ones that I preach. Just have patience with yourself, because today, you understand where the compromise is. And tomorrow you're going to see yourself compromising, but you're still going to compromise. And the next day you're going to see yourself compromising, and you might stop yourself halfway through the compromise, okay? And then the next day or the next week, you're going to say, no, I'm not compromising this. This is who I am. So it does take it's a lifelong journey. And I say it takes a year to go through the process. It takes a year to go through the process. But we don't truly become who we are until after the process, and we start integrating what we've learned into our everyday life. And every day, every week, every moment, we're going to realize something new. And I like to say all the time, the only time I'm going to have all of the answers is when the funeral home comes and picks up the body. Okay, so it is a lifelong journey. It's something that we do, but I can at least give to people a process, a journey that they can use for the rest of their life.
So can you give me just a couple steps in the journey, or kind of give me the big picture of how the journey with you might start if I wanted to work with you?
Okay. So I said earlier that first thing we do is look at the personality. Well, then the next thing we have to do is we have to go a little bit deeper into the unconscious mind. And inside there, Carl Jung says we have complexes, okay? So I like to look at those complexes as little pockets of information. And in these little pockets, we store all of the stuff that has happened to us in our life, okay? And we forget about what we've stored. So someday someone comes along and presses a button and we just explode, right? And it's always, in a most inappropriate time. It happens to us all. So as we start discovering what's inside those pockets, then we can control more of our behavior and choose to act rather than react. All right. So we discover things of that nature. We start talking about that and look into that. And then the third level is when we go into the spirit or the soul. And inside that spirit or soul, we have archetypes. The best way for me to describe the archetypes is to tell you a little story about a friend of mine and I. We like to, her name is Claire, and we like to go to plantation homes. Now, she comes from, her ancestry were plantation owners, okay? And they had, all along the Mississippi River, they had plantation homes, okay? And so we'll go into one of these plantation homes and she'll look around and she'll go, oh, I can imagine this and I can imagine that. And she truly can see herself living in that kind of environment. And I walk through the home and I go, oh, I don't understand this. I don't get living in this huge house. It's way too big. But my ancestry comes from the Acadians who were kicked out of Nova Scotia. So we lived, when we came to Louisiana, we lived in small cottages, all right, with a front porch. So today, she has always lived, my friend has always lived in a larger home, okay? I have always lived in a small home. And today I live in an Acadian cottage with the front porch, and it's less than 1,000 square feet. But I am perfectly comfortable. It has a connection to my soul. And the way that I figured this out was one day I went to the Evangeline Museum in St. Martinville, Louisiana. And they have this display on the plantation owners and the Acadians who came, and the differences in their living, okay? And it was another aha moment that I said, oh, that's why Claire can relate to this and I can't. And that's why I can relate to the small cottages and she can't. Because it's something that comes from within our soul. A lot of times people like to describe it as a deja vu kind of experience, okay? That's a connection with our soul. So we investigate with different tools. I have all kinds of tools in my toolbox that we can use, but we investigate the complexes, we investigate the archetypes, but investigate the connections.
Wow, it actually sounds fun because you're talking about something that is life altering, and you talk about getting rid of the noise in their lives. Can you expand on that concept a little bit more?
Yeah,
how you do that?
Well, honestly, the getting rid of the noise is changing the voices that we listen to in our brains. I'm forgetting the person's name. She's evangelical preacher on TV. I can't think. Joyce Myers. Joyce Myers, thank you. Yeah, she has a book called Battlefield of the Mind. Okay, and I think it's a wonderful description of what goes on in our mind. It really is. I would recommend anyone reading that, because that's the noise that I'm talking about. We have all the negativity of I'm not good enough. I'm never going to be anything because I'm a girl. I don't look good enough. I'm too fat. Who's going to want me? All the negative voices. I can't do that. I'm not smart enough. All those negative voices. We have to reprogram that, because those negative voices are the voices of the shadow. Some people might call it the evil one. Some people might call it Satan. But that's the voice of the shadow. That is not the voice of our Creator. Our Creator brings only love into our lives. And so we reprogram that so that we're listening to the voice of love and not the voice of negativity or the voice of our shadow.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that you said that the Creator only brings us love. And I run into a lot of people who they're always worried about all the bad stuff. And I'm always, who proclaim to be Christians. And I'm always wondering about that, just because it's like, okay, but God is love and love is good. And so I always wonder, well, where are they getting all of this other information? And
Well,
you just explained it.
that's another way that we compromise. And the world domesticates us. The world domesticates every one of us into that negativity.
Well, that's really interesting. So would you say, you said it a couple times, you say you minister to people.
Mm-hmm.
So you, in that context of helping people, what would you say would be the most important thing that the people you work with walk away with after they work with you?
I guess the most important thing, excuse me, would be to walk away with the knowing the difference between the voice of love and the voice of the shadow, and to make a conscious choice to always listen to the voice of love.
Oh, that's really beautiful, and I think that's really good advice. So tell me a little bit more about how we can work with you.
Okay. Well, I have a website. It's www.cfchouma.com. The name of my company is Coaching for Change, hence the CFC. And I am located in Houma, so that's HOUMA is so cfchouma.com. And you can get a lot of information about what we talked about on the website. There are also some downloads that you can go to and either purchase or get for free. So there's one free download that's about a 3-minute meditation that will help you to clear your mind and to get rid of the everyday external noise. So that's a good one. That's free. They can go and try that out to see if they like that. They can also call me by phone. My number is 985-804-2903. I work with people through Zoom conferencing. I work with people over the phone, and I also work with people in person. If they're a business owner, we can talk, we can do things. I've done group presentations via Zoom conferencing, so we can set that up in whatever way they need, whether it's in person or via technology. So either by phone or by also by email. My email address is the letter ktheriot @cfchouma.com.
Great. So I really like that. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world.
Right.
You can work with someone through the beauty of technology. Before I let you go, is there anything else that maybe I forgot to ask you about that you'd like to include?
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot of ground here today, but I would like to just leave the people with this thought, is that take some time every day, whether it's 30 seconds, 1 minute, or 10 minutes, but take a little bit of time for yourself and ask yourself this one question. Am I living from fear? Am I living from the shadow? Or am I living from love? And whatever that answer is will tell them where they are on the journey and what they might need for the next journey.
Wow. Thank you so much, Kate. That was really beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been great talking to you, and I hope everyone has a happy Easter season.
Thank you. This is Tami Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to Women Innovators with Tami Patzer. To learn more, please go to womeninnovatorsradio.com. And please do subscribe and share to spread the big messages and big missions to change the world.